also online. I'll ask if we, so this is the meeting of the Planning and Development Committee meeting for October 1st. As Vice Chair, I'll be chairing today. Chair Chapman is not available. And we'll start with asking for the roll call. Okay, we have quorum. The next item on the agenda is declarations of pecuniary interests. Is there any interests? Okay, thank you, Councillor Kerr. Not seeing any. We'll call for the adoption of the minutes. Can I have a mover? Councillor Kerr, Councillor Shahid. Any errors or omissions? Being none, those in favor? It's carried, thank you. We have item 4, statutory public meetings. We have no statutory public meetings. And so, Mr. Bridgman, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think you have a few announcements to convey to us.
Yes, thank you, Committee Chair Pickles. We do have some staffing announcements this morning. And I would like to start first with Simon Gill, who is going to talk about Business Advisory Centre Durham and that group joining the region. So over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Bridgman and Chair. I'm pleased to announce that the region has joined forces with the Business Advisory Centre Durham. BACD, the region's Small Business Advisory Centre, has joined Invest Durham, the Economic Development and Tourism division of the region. And with them, their wonderful team of small business advisors led by Teresa Shaver has also joined us. So sitting just behind me is the region's new manager of small business advisory services, or manager of BACD, Teresa Shaver. BACD has been operating for about 25 years, and Teresa has led the team for 12 of those years. So a seasoned professional in entrepreneurship advisory. The decision was made to join forces to capture some economies of scope, leverage the great relationships that we have with the DEDP, strengthen our relationships, the regions, with the entrepreneurship community, and grow the public profile of BACD, including through things like 311. So, small entrepreneurs may now call 311 and they'll be able to connect directly with BACD. I would love to turn it over, if I could, Chair, to Ms. Shaver to introduce BACD and her team.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We're excited, yes, to be part of the region. We have technically been part of the region. They have funded us for 25 years. Thank you, as has the province. We're excited to be part of the region. Myself, just to introduce my team, I have Lindy Schultz, Program Events and Marketing Specialist, and I have Patrice Esperon over here, who's a Program Coordinator and Business Advisor. So we run the Starter Company Plus program, a small grant program for business, and as well as the Summer Company program, a youth entrepreneurship program. And then we run over 200 events a year that are all to do with business training for entrepreneurs that are in Durham and providing the business advisory services to them to help them start and grow their business here as well. So it's around 5,000 entrepreneurs a year that we work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Teresa, and welcome aboard BACD. Chair, the second introductory item is that we have a new manager of transportation. Our former manager of transportation, Greg Pereira, has gone on to another area of employment, so he is no longer with us, but all is well. We have a new manager, and I'd like to call on Colleen Goodchild to introduce our new manager of transportation.
Thank you, Brian and Chair Pickles. So Chris Leach, just sitting right behind me, became the Manager of Transportation Planning, as Brian mentioned, on September 9th. Chris has 25 years of experience in the transportation planning field, and he joined the region back in 2000 and has held progressive roles since that time, with the last decade as principal planner in the transportation planning section. Before joining the region, Chris launched his career as a transportation planner at a local engineering consulting company in the GTA. He's been a registered professional planner since 2005 and has mentored several of his colleagues in their pursuit of full membership of professional planner. He holds an honors Bachelor of Arts in Geography from Queen's and a Master's of Urban Planning from McGill. He has a deep understanding of all facets of the role of transportation planning for all modes. He has a keen mind for data collection and technical analysis. Chris has also honed his experience through his review of provincial, regional, and local transportation environmental assessments, preparing comments on development applications from a transportation planning perspective, and being involved in several broader scale studies related to transit, key provincial initiatives, and active transportation. Chris was also the assistant project manager of our last Durham Transportation Master Plan and helped oversee a large and complex consultant assignment with extensive public consultation, including collaboration with regional staff, our area municipalities, and other agencies. He was also the transportation system lead for Envision Durham, and more recently was the project manager for the Durham Meadoway Visioning Study, which he oversaw the consultant team on deliverables, consultation, and working with other regional departments on project outcomes and next steps. Chris has an active family, and you might see him getting in exercise over the weekends on the roads here in Brooklyn and Whitby, supporting his kiddos with their passions of Highland dancing, ringette, and hockey all across the province, or grooving to his family members' musical pursuits. So please join me in congratulating Chris as the new Manager of Transportation Planning.
Thank you, Brian, for those announcements, and welcome aboard to those who are joining us, and we look forward to your diligent work. Mr. Bridgman, we have a presentation. I understand it's a recorded presentation. Would you like to cue that up?
Yes, please. And as Roger is queuing it up, as you say, it's a video presentation. It was, you'll be hearing and seeing Anissa Luckman, who is who prepared the report. So it is the demographic profile. There it is coming up now. So it's something that we do on a regular 5-year incremental basis to coincide with the 5-year census. We've been doing this since 2001, and so this is largely based on the 2021 census. So it looks like Roger has the presentation queued up, so I think we're ready to roll. Please, Roger.
Good morning, members of committee. This presentation is intended to provide an overview of the Durham Region Profile. Durham Region Profile is a collection of demographic and socioeconomic data for Durham Region with comparative information of the broader geographic areas of the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area and the province of Ontario. The main purpose of the profile is to present information on Durham Region that is of interest to the general public, business community, and various levels of government. This is the 5th edition of the Durham Region Profile. It is published every 5 years, coinciding with the most recent census in the form of a technical report with data tables and an infographic summary. As a quick roadmap, I will introduce the Durham Profile and provide a quick overview on what it is, as well as some of the data that is available in the profile. Statistics Canada's 2021 census is the primary source of data used in the profile. It includes comparisons to other parts of the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, including York, Peel, Toronto, Halton, and Hamilton on various indicators. Other sources of information include the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, and data collected in-house by the Durham Region Planning Division. The full list of data sources is included in the technical report, which is available on the Durham Region website. The Durham Profile has 6 reporting areas, including population, social characteristics, households and dwellings, employment and labor force, education and income, and agriculture. These areas were reported on through 7 census release information reports included in council information packages between April 2022 and January 2023. The information is presented in a variety of formats to support a broad range of users. It has 2 key components: an infographic summary, which highlights key indicators, and a technical report with data tables that go into the fine details and analyses. A third element, an online interactive dashboard, will be available with the census data later this fall. The purpose of these materials and analysis is not only to communicate the findings of the census at a broad scale, but also to support other internal departments, external agencies, groups, organizations, and researchers by conducting the analysis and having tables, infographics, and other materials readily available for use in their own work. All materials are available on the Durham Region website. I will now speak to some findings of the 2021 census. Here are some examples of basic types of information that appear in the Durham Profile infographic summary. We include a culmination of graphics that are easily digestible and can be used by other groups and agencies in their own research and reporting. In terms of population, Durham's population as per the 2021 census is 696,992, representing an average annual population increase of 2.7% since 2016. The Planning Division conducts a semi-annual monitoring of growth trends report that estimates population counts regularly. According to the latest monitoring of growth trends report, the current population as of year end in 2023 is estimated to be 753,000. The largest proportion of the population lives in Oshawa, followed by Whitby and Ajax. In the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, Durham shares 9.6% of the total population, and 7 in 10 new residents moving into Durham Region in the last 5 years are immigrants. In terms of social characteristics, over a third of Durham's residents are a visible minority, with South Asians representing the largest minority group. Statistics Canada collects data on religious background every 10 years and included it in the 2021 census. Nearly 53% of Durham's residents are of Christian faith. Other than English, Tamil is the language spoken most often at home in Durham, followed by Urdu and Mandarin. The population aged 65 and above has tripled since 1991, with nearly 107,000 residents, compared to just over 33,000 in 1991. There are more than 243,000 households in Durham Region, representing a 6.6% increase since 2016. There are approximately 2.84 people per household, which has increased for the first time since 1976. Prior to 2021, there was a national trend of people per household declining over time. It is possible that this is a direct impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, when there was a trend of many young adults moving home during the pandemic, concerns of affordability from market changes, and the formation of more multi-generational households. Approximately 78% of households were owned and 21% were rented. The average cost of a resale home was $936,000 as of 2023, and average monthly rent was $1,506. Most Durham residents live in a single detached house. Over 367,000 residents are in the labor force. As of 2023, there are 210,000 jobs in Durham Region and 12,718 businesses based on the data collected in the 2023 Durham Region Business Count. The largest sector, according to the census, was sales and service at 24% of the labor force. The average household income in Durham was $126,400, and average individual income was $56,750. Approximately 18.7% of homeowners spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs, and 40.6% of renters do so. In terms of education, over half of Durham residents aged 15 to 64 have a post-secondary certificate or diploma as their highest level of education. The largest major field of study is business management and public administration at nearly 13%. In terms of agriculture, there are 1,200 farms in Durham with an average market value of $4 million. The largest category was cattle ranching and farming at nearly a quarter of all farms, followed by oilseed and grain farming. The average age of farmers was 59 years, and nearly 68% of all farmers are over the age of 55. As the 2021 census of population was a central source of information for the Durham Region profile, it should be noted that the census took place during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. During this unprecedented time, there were numerous government-mandated measures in place to limit the spread of the pandemic, such as province-wide lockdowns that resulted in anomalies in social, economic, and demographic data collected during the 2021 census. As such, many indicators such as employment, income, and commuting habits, while representative of a snapshot in time, may not be a true representation of demographic and socioeconomic realities post-pandemic. Future census of population data will provide a greater understanding of the temporary and lasting impacts and shifts in demographics resulting from the pandemic. Thank you very much. This concludes my presentation of the Durham Region profile.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. Demographics and statistics are important in planning as well as a lot of aspects of business we do. Brian, I'm going to suggest you or your staff field any questions that come forward, and I'm going to be recognizing Councillor Kerr at this point as a committee member. I touched the button, Councillor Kerr, so you can go.
Good to go. The red light is on. Thank you, Chair, and Mr. Bridgman, through you to staff, and thank you, Anissa, for the presentation. I just have 3 areas of questions. One of them I was quite curious about was the 7 out of 10 new residents in the last 5 years were immigrants. So my question would be, are these landed immigrant status people who have applied through the government, or does it include international students studying at post-secondary institutions as well?
Thank you for that question, through you, Chair. I am going to turn this over to, I'm looking at Colleen or Jonah, were the other ones involved. The other sort of dynamic of this is immigration sometimes from other provinces, for example, which factors into the numbers. So perhaps I'll turn it over to Colleen to elaborate on your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and through you, Mr. Chair, we can get you a little bit more information on that, but my understanding when a census is collected is a resident of the region as opposed to a student is actually not a permanent resident, and they get counted at the location of their actual home.
Okay.
So they may not, that's why it's always challenging when we're doing population forecasting to kind of account for the students that we have in Oshawa and Durham region because of the way that data is collected. But
Okay.
we can get you a little bit more background
you.
on that and
So
send that
just
to
as
you.
a follow-up question to that, so we consider somebody from Alberta who was perhaps born in Canada, we consider them an immigrant if they come from Alberta to Ontario?
That would be in migration, yes.
Wow, okay, thank you. Not that I have anything against foreign immigration, I was just curious that was the population increase. The second question I had was to do with the 2.84 residents per household. So to clarify for me, is that all ages of residents, or are we talking about an increase in the number of children being born into families residing in Durham?
Well, that, through you, Chair, that would be all ages of residents, so average people per household. That figure is very important for the planning work we do, and as noted, it's been creeping upward, whereas over the years since I started, it's been sort of trending downward, but it would be all individuals in the household.
So multi-generational families would swell those numbers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, a bit of an observation too, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little concerned about the agricultural community, the average age of our average farmer being 59 years of age. Now, if they're anything like my father-in-law, who farmed until he was in his early 80s, you know, I might not have as great a concern about the age of the farmer, but modern farmers are perhaps a little different than my father-in-law's generation. So is there in fact a concern about this, and what sorts of things might be in place to sort of bring on a newer generation, or how will we sort of lower that age so we seem to have a long-term greater stability in the agricultural sector?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to start it off. I may bounce this over to Simon or Colleen at some point, but yes, it's identified as an issue. It's something that our economic development team that handles the agricultural and rural sectors is very aware of, working with Durham College, for example, who has been working on programs to try and attract people to the agricultural profession, but in a range of areas that pertain to agriculture. We did a number of videos to show young people the variety of jobs that are available in the agricultural sector, not just working the land, but whether it be in finance or some aspect of science or something like that. So Simon, maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more on how we've worked to try and attract more young people to the agricultural sector.
Sure. Yeah, and through the chair, Councillor, it is truly a major issue for the sector, the average age of farm operators. As the Commissioner mentioned, we have this wide range of video series to showcase careers in the agri-food sector and throughout the value chain. We just recently published a number of Apple value chain career videos to showcase the variety of options available, and our team regularly visits high schools, delivers workshops for students that may be interested, and we had a recent event that was very successful showcasing some of these career options.
So the Field to Fork program at Durham College, for instance, part of that. And secondarily, would vertical farming be part of that? It's a little less daunting perhaps than working hundreds of acres of land when you have a vertical farm. Is that considered as being part of that trade mix, the employment mix?
Yeah, through the chair, it certainly is. In fact, we have a lot of indoor farming, greenhouse farming in the region, and increasingly there's growing interest in vertical farming, which is a focus of Durham College. I know my colleague, Ms. Goodchild, has some other activities we've been pursuing to address this issue.
Thank you, Simon. And through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to share some anecdotes from our farm tour last week, actually. There was actually a lot of young farmers involved in some of the talks that we gave for each of the groups, as well as an emphasis on the need for high precision or automotive and repair for some of the automotive or the farm equipment. And just the idea that generally in the room, anecdotally from some of the DAC members saying how great it is to see the next generation coming back to the farm. So it was really kind of encouraging to see that last Thursday firsthand, and hope to see that continue as well.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I remember a couple of years ago suggesting that if we have these innovation hubs for automotive and various sectors, that maybe that might be a consideration to have an innovation hub. We have very innovative farmers in Durham Region, and sharing of that information might be also a way to generate employment. That concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. And I would note I'm 61, so I do consider 59 still to be young. I would also note that we've had the representatives of the Agricultural Advisory Committee come out and give us presentations many times, and I'm always amazed at the amount of technology and intricacy to farming these days that we might otherwise consider in the traditional pursuit of farming. So it's always interesting to have our Agricultural Advisory Committee representatives come and speak to us. I don't see any other requests or questions from members of the committee or our guest counselors, so I think we're finished with that item, Mr. Richmond? Yes, thank you. We have 6 delegations today. I would just remind delegations that you have 5 minutes. We don't applaud or jeer anyone speaking, to be respectful of them making their comments. And I would ask delegations to focus on the subject areas they have identified for their delegation. With that, I would invite Terry Ricker to come to the podium to speak on Envision Durham. So Terry, if you're present, come forward and we'll have the mic turned on for you. You may begin.
Good morning. I would like to, sorry, I'll just set my timer so I remember. My name is Terry Recker, and I am with Action for Canada. I'm a provincial leader in Ontario. I would like to make a land acknowledgement to begin with. I would like to thank God and God alone for the ground that I'm standing on. After reviewing the Envision Durham plan in great detail, I'm very confused about, what it's all about, but I do actually see that there is an infringement on our mobility rights and also our God-given inalienable rights as a Canadian citizen in Durham. I don't know if any of you have read it in great detail, but I would like to share with you, as I hold up quickly here, the Complete Streets Guide, which is here. This is on the internet, so anybody can go to it and take a look at it and read it in detail, and it's quite disturbing as to what happens with it. So this report here, Complete Streets, works with the 15-minute streets, and they're all intertwined. And then we also have the 15-minute city report, which works with the C40 principles. The C40 principles is the consumptive interventions to the individual. And the C40 streets headline, which is this report here, which is the future of urban consumption in a 1.5 Celsius world, outlines the disturbing plan that has been put into motion to control all of humanity through smart cities and C40 cities in their own language. And I just want to share a few highlights from the report, examples of a 2036-year plan to reduce your meat consumption from 16 kilograms to 0, a dairy milk from 90 kilograms to 0, calories per day would be restricted to 2,500 calories, and the number of clothing purchases per person per year would be 8 to start off with, and then it would go down significantly to 3 items. Car ownership would, from 190 vehicles per 1,000 people down to 0 vehicles. Aviation restrictions, 1 trip per year. And so what I'm saying here is for decades, the UN have been at work implementing I call it their diabolical plan, and their main focus is at the municipal level because municipalities are closest to the people and have the potential to inflict the greatest amount of control at the ground level. Municipalities are receiving cash incentives from the federal government, and many mayors have signed on to what's called the Covenant of Mayors. The Covenant of Mayors sets out the greenhouse emission budget targets for each city to follow. And the way that they get individuals to do this is through targets by law restrictions at the local municipalities that they will put in place. I feel that it's a great violation of privacy, and it's against our Constitution and the Charter of Rights and our coronation oath. So I'd also like to mention, it may, in their own words, if I hold up the Municipal Primer, which was a group that got together from all countries in 1994, they say in their own words about the plan, it may be difficult, if not impossible, to impose sustainable development practices on the public because it involves certain changes in people's expectations and behavior. Well, I say, who do they think they're talking to? So the emphasis on establishing minimum densities and intensification targets.
Sorry, Terry, I just want to remind you have 1 minute.
Okay, thanks. Intensification targets within our neighborhood raises significant concerns. I oppose the idea of transforming my community through massive intensification efforts. Because I'm going through those so quickly, there's different aspects in the pages that restrict a lot of our mobility rights, like walking and the use of bicycles. Well, I don't know how they expect us to do that in the winter, but I completely do not vote on any of this. And actually, we haven't even been asked as residents whether or not to vote. But I would like to hold up lastly for you, Council resolution joined the FCM, which is the Federation Canadian Municipalities, and the ICLEI Partners for Canada. Durham Region signed this in 2008, along with 2 signatures at that time. I would like to hold up a council resolution signed by the people in Durham Region to leave the FCM ICLEI Partners for Climate Protection Program. So that concludes what I'd like to say about it.
Thank you, Terry. You're just about on time there. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next delegation is James Boutrogianis, also speaking to Envision Durham. I hope I got that right.
You can spell it next.
Well, I tried to say it quickly, and then you might not notice any errors. So you're up, James, and,
Okay.
and likewise, you have 5 minutes. And if you could focus your comments to Envision Durham, which is the subject that you're delegating on. Thank you.
Absolutely. 3.2 is the area of my concern, and I'm very concerned about what I read. I was shocked to find out that we actually made a declaration of climate emergency. And the reason I am shocked at that is because there is no climate emergency based on anthropogenic CO2. I've been following this for a long time. It started when I was 15 years old, and I got scared. I was frightened by what I read in a magazine saying that global ice age was going to kill everybody by 2020. We were going to die of frostbite in July. That's what these sensationalist morons were trying to say to a young teenager. But then I learned later that sensationalism sells, and so people follow these things. And at the same time, there was the global warmers who were claiming that the ice caps were going to melt and the polar bears were going to drown and all kinds of sensationalist things. Again, because sensationalism sells, people tend to want to get that kind of attention, write their books, and do what they want to do. Later on, as I started investigating it on my own, I found that the genuine science that I found, that there is no climate emergency due to anthropogenic CO2. And therefore, that tells me that the whole climate change kind of narrative seems very disingenuous to me. In 1989-90, the IPCC was formed to intentionally demonize CO2 as the cause of global warming. To intentionally demonize CO2 and put it under the guise of science is so disingenuous to me because science doesn't work that way. My undergraduate degree was in science. I really enjoyed the subject. I'm not a scientist by any means, but I can read the literature a little bit. And I am not happy. And I think a lot of people are not happy that we have a climate emergency on our books. And I would propose a motion, my first motion, that we withdraw the climate emergency because there's a lot of benefits from that. If I could respectfully go through the chair and ask for somebody to put that motion today, I would do that. Thank you. Climate change to demonize CO2, I've mentioned that. CO2, why do I say that it's disingenuous? CO2 is the weakest greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Not the strongest, it's the weakest because it only absorbs infrared at 15 nanometers. And it is also very small in the atmosphere. 420 parts per million may sound like a lot, but 0.042% is actually very small. But anthropogenic CO2, which is what the target is of the disingenuous climate alarmist, is about 80 parts per million. And that accumulation has happened over about 100 years. In other words, there is no climate emergency due to anthropogenic CO2. I want to make that clear to you. It cannot happen. It's energetically impossible. It is simply too small and too weak. As I continued in the literature at 3.2, I found out that we are now talking about methane. Methane is even smaller in the atmosphere than anthropogenic CO2, 2 parts per million. So for 2 parts per million and 80 parts per million in CO2, we're expecting climate to dramatically change, and it's going to cause catastrophic climate change. This is not true. I've studied a little bit about this. And what I'm finding is that the real, genuine science seems to come from those who have denied this thing. And there's a lot of great scientists who have denied catastrophe. And it's the catastrophe that's the problem, because that's what scares people. Not long
So,
ago, a
James,
young.
James, I don't mean to interrupt, but you have 1 minute left. Thank you.
Uh-oh, okay, I better get rolling. What else am I going to talk about? My second motion, withdraw from ICLEI. Okay, that's already been said. Net zero. Net zero seems to me like net silly. I mean, how is it that we're going to reduce our so-called footprint to zero and invite 600,000 people to come? Every individual in this room breathes out 40,000 parts per million CO2 about every minute and a half, depending on your size and your exercise. So if we're bringing 600,000 people who produce CO2, not to mention drive their cars and heat their homes, how are we going to get to zero? It's impossible. It's a setup for failure. And I'm going to ask you to withdraw from net zero. Do not follow net zero. I implore you. What else can I say about that? Carbon tax. If net zero is silly, carbon tax is terrible. It's taxing our breath. It's taxing our humanity. I'm out of time, but it's taxing our existence. And ideologically, if you can think ideologically with me, that can be twisted and turned into something very ugly. I remember David Suzuki, a man whom I did not respect very much to begin with, and he came up and said that we have too many people. We're in trouble for climate because there's too many of us.
James, I'm going to have to cut you off there. I gave you a little bit more time because I interrupted you, but you can remain at the podium because you're our next delegate anyway.
Okay.
I'll just call you James this time.
Yes.
And you're speaking to the Transportation Master Plan.
Okay, the Transportation Master Plan, which I'm just going to finish briefly. I would like you to understand my perspective. I love our environmental committee, or at least it used to be the environmental committee, because they do a lot of good things. But now that's been convoluted, the ideas involved with environmental stewardship is being convoluted by this disingenuous climate stuff. And we have somehow combined those two together. I would ask that we pull those two apart. So that's to conclude the first part for me. One more item about carbon tax, if you don't mind. I have a friend who owns a truck and he owns a car. And he said the carbon rebate is great because now he can drive his truck more. In other words, the carbon tax has failed. It's failed because it's not a good disincentive to drive more or to burn more gas. That it doesn't work that way. And the original PBO in Ottawa said that the carbon rebate is less than what it's going to cost the average person. So again, I don't know how you're going to be able to push back on carbon tax, but I think that's a very popular notion right now. And I'm talking to people who know, have their hand on the pulse of the nation, the pulse of the province and the region. Is there a way that you can push back on carbon tax? I think that'd be a very popular idea. Do you have to kick the can back to on Queen's Park? Does Queen Park have to kick it back to Ottawa, where a lot of this comes from? I don't know. But I would really ask that you do that. Transportation. Let me focus on a couple of positive things. I really like the bike lanes. I don't like it if they're too wide, but I really like the bike lanes because I used to ride the bike. I used to ride the bike quite a bit when I was younger. As you can see, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I don't ride my bike anymore. I can walk, but I can't ride my bike anymore. I don't know. It's just too uncomfortable for me. So I want to thank you for the bike lanes, and also want to thank you for those little scooter things that we have in Oshawa. I love those things. Man, I see them all over the place. Rick, Ward 4, thank you for that. Thank you for providing those things. I think it's great to see young people kind of boot around in these little things. So the transportation that I'm concerned about, someone told me there was a double-decker bus driving around Durham Region. I've never seen it, but somebody said they saw it. Is that true? If it's true, I don't think we should continue to buy double-decker buses. No, it's not true. Okay. Yeah. Metrolinx. And they're running a double-decker bus? Okay, stranger things have happened, I'm sure. What else can I say about transportation? I didn't really prepare too much for transportation. I focused on this one, on climate change, because that's my passion. What am I going to say? I hope that we will always continue to provide parking for those who drive. I remember 2022, I was looking at a parking lot 16 in Oshawa. and it's going to be used by the condo developers who are developing, I think, the old post office, something like that. I'm really happy for that development, but I'm a little bit concerned about losing 100 parking spaces downtown. I really like downtown Oshawa. I don't live that far, but I still like to drive there, and I would be concerned about parking. I don't think we should mitigate parking at all. There's no reason in my mind to mitigate parking in an area like Durham Region where we have a lot of space. And also when we develop, this is a development committee, I would suggest that we maintain strong levels of parking in any development that we endeavor to allow. I'm down to 1 minute. What else can I talk about? I like to drive my car. When I came to Oshawa over 30 years ago, I did not come by bus. It certainly wasn't double-decker, and I didn't come on a scooter. I came in my car. I like to drive my car. And when I drove all across Durham Region, not Durham Region, Oshawa, I noticed a lot of single-family homes, and I thought, if I take the job here, I could probably afford one. And that's what I did. And when there was 2 incomes in our family, that's what we had. We had a home in the north, a relatively new home. That's the strength of Oshawa. If we're going to attract people, we've got to have detached single-family dwellings. If there's a stigma against that because of climate change, by all means, drop the stigma. That's what brought me here, single-family dwellings, detached if you can. I'm down to 20 seconds. I think I'll just kind of let it go. Thanks very much for hearing me.
Thank you, James. You sort of moderated yourself there, so thank you. The fourth delegation we have is Patricia Conlon. Again, Patricia, you have 5 minutes to delegate to the committee.
Thank you.
So,
I asked before
ahead.
the time starts that I do not want to be interrupted. I'll just look up for the last minute. My name is Patricia Conlon. I'm a concerned citizen of Durham. I've also run in 2 federal elections because of my concern, and I am currently the PPC candidate for York Durham. I'm here to talk about some real flaws in this plan and harm that's been done to our communities because there is no one listening. I have presented personally many times in this region on the evidence of harm with this sustainability plans, which is not sustainable, and it's harming people. As an example, the plan boasts about an upcoming rapid population growth in Durham from about 700, as was mentioned, to 1.5K. How does rapid population growth achieve these carbon neutral communities that you're looking for? Humans breathe carbon. How did you get the high number? Because government data shows that many Canadian families are having fewer children due to the high cost of living. In addition, across the board, all-cause mortality is up, suicide is up, life expectancy is down in the US and Canada as well. What are we going to then import all these citizens? And if so, what's the purpose of reducing greenhouse emissions when everyone breathes carbon dioxide? In addition, many potential skilled immigrants are now rejecting Canada because of the grossly high taxes, poor quality of services, including education, healthcare, and housing prices. Building that many homes will be challenging too, given the personal debt loads, high rent, and high home prices. Pushing a plan seems to bring in countless new migrants, many who will not be able to afford housing. That's going to put a burden on essential services, and increase pollution, mental health issues, and crime. On page 35, 36 of your plan, your so-called experts outline general policies to achieve net zero by 2050. I won't go over that, but it's grossly flawed. The council has heard clear evidence from esteemed scientists that confirm CO2 is not a pollutant, it's life-affirming, including Dr. Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace. You refuse to listen to this simple truth. Decades of minuscule addition of carbon is ludicrous. Canada is also one of the most carbon neutral countries in the world. The truth is net zero carbon is unachievable, just like net zero COVID was. Both use the same policies which create poverty and servitude using flawed instruments, and it is spoken of in the Bible. You shall know them by their fruits. In Matthew 7, we have a society that is breaking down and you refuse to see massive poverty, mental illness, physical illness, suffering of all counts because of these policies. The truth is climate is always changing, but not by carbon dioxide or human activity. If you cared about the environment at all, you would force companies to remove toxic chemicals that are poisoning our children. You would remove fluoride from our municipal water. It's a toxin that lowers IQ. It's been proven at a Supreme level court. Let's focus on the health of our community instead of taxing them into poverty. You would ban Roundup. It's killing our bees and causing human cancer. You'd support local farmers who supply healthy fruit and vegetables instead of bankrupting them with taxes and making it difficult for them to pass along these farms to their children, as you've noted the average age. You'd plant trees in urban settings, protect green space instead of charging people to walk in their own parks and forests. Shame. You would stop pushing mass unsustainable immigration and focus on the lives of the people in the community. If you want a thriving community, focus on lowering taxes, creating real jobs, and improving health. Most businesses can't afford the high tax structure. We bankrupted many of our small and medium businesses with COVID lockdowns and mandates, which caused extreme harm. And again, that policy was pushed. People didn't listen, and it caused massive harm. The green energy jobs is a fraud. EV vehicles are not green. Rare earth minerals are being mined by slave labor. Toxic lithium batteries are impossible to recycle. Green energy is a lie that enriches billionaires while making the cost of energy for masses soar while destroying the environment. Windmills deliver little energy and are decimating whale and bird populations while causing massive environmental harm when recycled. If you cared about Durham residents, you'd help them afford their first home by reducing immigration, reducing taxes, especially reducing and eliminating all carbon taxes.
Thank you, Patricia. You've expired your time.
My recommendations, strong recommendations, withdraw from the UN Sustainability Development Goals, remove fluoride from municipal water, protect farmers and farmland, reduce immigration levels, reduce taxes for citizens and businesses, and end spending on wasteful programs. Thank you. I hope this time you will listen and will not implement this in Durham Region.
Thank you. David Ward is our next delegation. David, if you're present, if you could come forward. You likewise have 5 minutes. Would you like me to remind you when you're down to a minute or not?
No, I'll keep an eye on the number up
Okay.
there. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
councillors and staff. I mentioned when I asked to speak here today that I wanted to look at the numbers presented on the Envision Durham page. Those who have visited the page will notice that the video there is looking at a horizon of 2041, while the text above says 2051. The video talks about 1.2 million residents and 430,000 jobs, while the text suggests a population of 1.3 million. Putting aside the 10 years and 100,000 residents difference, I also want to look at these numbers, these population and job predictions referred to in the 2009 Durham Region Business Count Highlights PDF. I have those numbers here. The job growth from 2015 to 2019 is shown to increase at an average of 5,786 jobs per year, while the projected numbers show an increase from 206,494 in 2019 to the same 430,000 jobs in 2051. This represents an increase in the ratio of jobs per capita of 16.57%, which seems optimistic. If we look at the population, on the other hand, the growth is projected over the next 25 years at 24,021 people per year, again from 2019. From the 2019 Durham Region Business Count Highlights PDF, the population here increased from a rate of 6,541 persons per year over 5 years from 2015 to 2019, or 8,176 if you divide that by 4 years. So we now have a proposed 3- or 4-fold increase in the speed at which the population is projected to grow, which roughly doubles the population by 2051. There are a few problems here. which speak to the first 4 questions in the 2019 public survey: how to manage how and where growth should occur in the region, how to increase job opportunities, how to promote a balance of jobs and population, how to diversify the region's employment base. The main problem, of course, is that such a large growth in the population will totally upset the fabric of our communities. During the recent Durham by-election, our team canvassed all of North Oshawa, which, unlike Clarington and Bowmanville, is predominantly new immigrants. And overwhelmingly, the feeling there too was that we need to slow down the influx of new residents. The provision of jobs cannot keep up. The projected numbers are hugely optimistic, if not reckless, considering the information in the federal government's own 2004 document, Disruptions on the Horizon. I get the very real sense from this document that neither the federal government nor the provincial government really knows what they're doing, what they're all. I'll just skip on. I probably shouldn't say that here. The language of this agenda is the same language we see in the United Nations and World Economic Forum documents and declarations: diversity, inclusion, equality, sustainability, resilience, etc. And yet the WF and its Fourth Industrial Revolution book predicts massive job dislocations in the near future due to AI and robotics. So can the people you plan to bring in here expect to find meaningful work? And how, given all the other disruptions outlined in the recent Horizons document, can the region be so sure that the level of the population growth can be sustained in a way that won't totally erase the culture of those original Durham communities, Whitby, Ajax, Pickering, etc.? My ancestors, incidentally, are still listed in the wedding registry at St. Mary's Church in the town of Whitby, North Yorkshire. My great-great-great-grandfather was the harbour master there around the time that a young James Cook plied the English coast as an apprentice in the Merchant Navy in the 1740s. Current strategic plans emphasize the importance of preserving our heritage. We hope the upcoming 2030 strategic plans emphasize the same. The history of Durham region is enshrined in the names of the towns in which we live. It is incumbent on everyone here to ensure that the traditions that have made this region what it is can continue. So the so-called new fiscal age describes a society of global design in which the accumulated wealth of the existing population is harvested by various public-private partnerships in order to pay for infrastructure of a fanciful and unsustainable future. So we call on all of you now to step away from the globalist agenda being forced upon us, adopt an appropriately regional plan with a focus on local environmental stewardship. And I must ask also here if any of you are familiar with this recent 2024 document, Disruptions. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We have our 6th delegation, which is Jeanette Miller. If you're present, Jeanette. Again, 5 minutes and on Envision Durham. Would you like me to give you a 1-minute warning, or are you going to self-moderate?
I think I'll be okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'd like to draw your attention to the many flaws in Durham's strategic growth policies. While these ideas are often marketed as modern and efficient, in practice they have serious negative consequences for both urban and rural residents. Firstly, strategic growth limits property rights. One of the key features of strategic growth is highly density development. While this may sound like a positive step towards more compact, efficient cities, in reality, it restricts property rights. Single-family homes are being discouraged in favor of multi-family buildings, and zoning laws are being tightened to restrict where people can live and build. Secondly, strategic growth is incompatible with rural needs. While high-density transit-oriented development might work in an urban setting, it is completely unsuited to rural areas. Many people in Durham region rely on personal vehicles and larger properties to support their way of life. Pushing for car-free zones and ride-sharing in these areas is both impractical and damaging to rural residents' independence. Thirdly, strategic growth is a financial burden of unused transit infrastructure. One of the pillars of strategic growth is the expansion of public transit. While this sounds good in theory, many of these projects are underutilized and over budget. This creates an enormous financial burden on taxpayers who are forced to pay for transit systems they may never use. Example, Durham's investment in light rail and bus rapid transit projects could run into hundreds of millions of dollars, yet the ridership projections are often overly optimistic. These systems will likely require ongoing subsidies to remain operational, draining public funds that could be used for more pressing needs such as homelessness, drug addiction problems, or local water and air pollution. The strategic growth referred to in Durham Region's Envision official plan should be the main issue at the next municipal election. Prior to the election, planners should be conducting input sessions at which the public needs to be asked the following questions. How do citizens feel about planning policy that forces them to move from their single-family homes to multi-dwelling high-rises? How do the citizens feel about planning with a goal to eventually ban cars? How do citizens feel about planning that enforces the creation of light rail public transportation with a limited number of riders? How do citizens feel about planning that enforces smart meters that can grossly overcharge users and can be a hazard if they can spontaneously catch on fire? How do citizens feel about planning that forces taxpayers to pay for plug-in stations for electrical cars that hardly anybody wants or uses? How do citizens feel about planning that creates non-elected boards, councils, and regional governments to enforce United Nations-inspired policies? How do citizens feel about planning that forces all housing to conform to specific government design, including projects of multifamily buildings that are forced into their neighborhoods? How do citizens feel about planning that enforces international building codes and international plumbing and electrical codes designed to require major retrofitting in existing and new buildings to comply with results in a one-size-fits-all society? How do citizens feel about planning that uses the power of eminent domain to take properties and destroy small, locally owned businesses? These are the realities of sustainable development planning programs, usually under the term strategic growth. It is recommended that Durham Region move away from strategic growth policies that prioritize density and transit infrastructure over property rights and rural needs. We need to withdraw from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, ICLEI, Partners for Climate Protection Programs, end the Climate Emergency Declaration, and dissolve the Climate Action Plan. Instead, we should focus on practical solutions that protect property rights, respect rural lifestyles, and provide affordable infrastructures for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. That is the end of our delegations, and we're going to move on to planning, item 7, which is planning. We have 2 items of correspondence under 7.1A and B. Councillor Neal, you're on virtually. Did you wish to move those items and speak to them?
Well, I'll just speak to them right now. I'm not moving them. I guess the question I have, and this would apply to both of them, Mr. Chair, is
Councillor Neal, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. If you don't, if you're not going to be the mover, I'll seek a mover and a seconder from members of the committee to receive those 2 items for information. Councillor Shaheed and Councillor Kerr as the mover and seconder. And Councillor Neal, you can continue. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks very much. I guess my overall question to both of them would be, through Mr. Chair, on the correspondence. Now, the new Durham Regional Official Plan, which is being passed down to the local municipalities, and if Bill 23 is to be proclaimed, I don't know if it's going to be or not. I guess we'll find out January 1st. What would be the implementation process for this to happen? I don't think there's anything that's been actually presented to the public, and I don't have a clue as to how this is going to happen. Should there be a staff overview to planning committee concerning this? And I guess that's my general opinion of this. And also the fact that we used to have joint planning and works, because I've been around long enough to know at those committees which was important committee work. And so how would that mesh, like planning and works, if planning is going to be going to the local municipalities? So that's my one question. Then I have a second question as well in regards to that. I don't know if you want to have me ask the
Councillor
second
Neal, I'll
question
pass
now.
that
or-
question over to Mr. Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Neal, for those questions. We're talking about what we know here as staff as Bill 23. Bill 23 was introduced by the province nearly 2 years ago in October of 2022. And as the councillor mentioned, it contemplated some changes with respect to upper tier planning. Not the elimination of upper tier planning, but some changes with respect to the upper tier planning functions, largely some of the approval responsibilities that the regions have in relation to subdivisions, condominiums, and things like that. In Durham Region, that regional approval authority was delegated to the 5 lakeshore municipalities in the year 2000, so nearly 25 years ago, and consent, severances, and things like that have also been delegated. So not a lot of additional planning would be delegated down if, as the councillor says, Bill 23 is proclaimed for Durham, Niagara, and Hamilton. Bill 23 has been proclaimed for Halton, Peel, and York, and so they've adjusted. And to the councillor's question about implementation, what we've seen is memoranda of understanding. So what the province wants to see is a memo of understanding as between the region and the province for how certain things are going to happen going forward, and then the region would have memos of understanding with the region and its constituent area municipalities to be clear on who does what. Now, if the province does say, okay, we are going to proclaim Bill 23 for Durham, Waterloo, and Niagara, they would give some runway. They would give some period of months, as was the case for Halton, Peel, and York, say 3 months or so. We don't know when that's going to happen. We've heard some things, but it's been quiet for a while, and quite honestly, there is no date at the moment. So it's an if for the time being. But as the councillor said, one of the things that was contemplated when Bill 23 was introduced originally, that if Durham is proclaimed, then the regional official plan would become the jurisdiction of the area municipalities, and they would subsume and incorporate aspects of this into their individual official plans as they bring them forward for updating. So that's about as much as I can say right now, but as far as this idea of upper tier planning continuing, yes, of course. We talk about regional transportation planning. We think about the support that this department provides to whether it be social services in relation to housing, or finance in relation to the DC background work they do, or to the works department in relation to the infrastructure planning they need to do. So there's a lot of expertise and experience and knowledge that the planners of the region bring to the entire corporation, and that will continue.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councillor Neal, I believe you had another question.
Is there going to be any kind of a presentation regarding this to the public, or?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Not until such time as the province gives some indication that they're really, in fact, going to do something. We have reported on this a number of times through reports when it was first announced a couple of years ago and some of the other provincial changes, but there's nothing scheduled at the moment. But I would say that if some announcement has come that gives a specific time frame as to when Bill 23 will be proclaimed for Durham, Niagara, and Waterloo, then we would look at, we could look at doing something at that time, but nothing planned at the moment.
Okay, well, I think it'd be appreciated if the public was, if they were more informed on what exactly is going to take place. Like my big concern is how is this going to mesh with our local municipalities? I mean, I know there's talks going on with the 3 levels of government, but I guess the sooner the better. I guess my second question would be in the Columbus Part 2 plan, like I have like a resident that just contacted me in regards to this. He's already been affected with the Durham Regional Official Plan in regards to his appearing at the Committee of Adjustment. It's been canceled this week because of the different process that's going to take place between the region and the municipalities in regards to his property and what he wants to do. Should I talk to you later about this, Brian, or do you know anything about that with the Committee of Adjustments now with the local municipalities?
Yeah, no, I'm through you, Mr. Chair. I don't know anything about that. We did just approve the Columbus Part 2 plan, but specifically as to that resident's questions, I'm not familiar, so I'd be happy to talk with you after about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Any other members of committee? Being none, the motion is duly moved and seconded. I'll take a vote on that. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That brings us to 7.2, which is reports. We have report A, which is report number 2024 P15, the Durham Region Profile, Demographics, and Social Economic Data. Anything to speak to that, Mr. Commissioner?
No, thank you, Chair. I think the presentation and the follow-up questions covered the things that we wanted to present.
And I'm just flipping through my notes, but that's a receipt for information. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kerr, Councillor Shahid moved and seconded to receive for information. Any members of committee or guest members wish to speak to this? Or guest members, guest councillors? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Under economic development, 8.1 correspondence, and we do have 8.2 reports. Commissioner, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you. There are no, there's no correspondence and no reports with respect to economic development and tourism.
Okay, I was just flipping to the page to see exactly what we had there. So, okay, thank you. On item 9, advisory committees, we have no advisory committee information. 10, no confidential matters. Other business? Seeing no other business. The date of the next meeting is Tuesday, November the 5th at 9:30, and I'll call a motion for adjournment. Councillor Shahid and Councillor Kerr. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're adjourned.